We've got questions on Savonarola, the French monarchy, and Charles gives advice on how to stay cool while everyone else is estivating for the summer. Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu, now being broadcast and podcast on the Crusade Channel. Talk radio the way it should be at crusadechannel.com. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a post-apocalyptic Charles Coulombe. Wow. Yeah. Go ahead.
Really? Post-apocalyptic? The end has come and gone, and we're just sort of rummaging through the ruins?
I feel like we did pretty good. We beat it.
I guess, if we're still here, and if it came and went, yeah, I guess, okay, fine. You know, the brilliant red sun that shines 24 hours, well, it's an inconvenience, but we'll deal. Man, you know, I haven't, post-apocalyptic, like the end of the world.
How long does the end of the world last? I mean, there's the end of the world period, right?
See, that's the thing. We could be going through it. You know, it's funny. One of the great things about being over here is that I've traveled to all sorts of nooks and corners of Europe that I never went to before. So about a year and a half ago, just after COVID broke in that part of the world, I was sitting in a cafe in Strelzow, and the fellow sitting across from me, he heard me speaking to the waitress, and he said, "By you're German, I guess you're English." And I said, "No, I'm an American." He said, "Oh, well, do you mind if I join you?" So I sat at my table. And I said, the end of the world is supposedly en route or already here. And he said, "Oh, it's already hit here in Strelzow." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You won't find Ruritania on any map. It's gone. It came here first." And I said, "Well, that's astonishing." He says, "Well, we won't be the only ones. Where are you living?" And I said, "Outside Vienna." I said, "All right, I think they're still around. When you get back, look up Fredonia, Ruritania, Graustark, any of the countries in this area, and see if they're still even listed or if anyone even remembers they're existing. Dollars to donuts," he said. "You'll find that we've winked out and nobody even remembers us. That is what the end of the world is really like." So later that day, I had to get back here, so I got on the train, and we left Strelzow, and I asked the conductor, "How many miles from Strelzow to Vienna?" And he said, "From where?" And I said, "Strelzow, the city I just got on from." He said, "You didn't get on at Strelzow, sir. You got on at the border. There's no Strelzow. I don't know what you're talking about." So that could be what it is. It could be that the vanishing from mind and map of Ruritania and its neighboring countries is, in fact, a sign of the end. Tomorrow Belgium could be gone, or Lodomeria.
What does gone mean? Just gone? Just poof?
You can't get there anymore. Poof. It's got, as the old Maine farmer used to say, you can't get there from here. It's just gone. Poof. No more. All gone. Bye-bye. I mean, when was the last time you saw a map of Europe with Ruritania on it?
I don't know if I've ever seen one.
Exactly, because when it vanishes, it's retroactive. A whole people, their proud history, their architecture, poof.
Kind of like Atlantis, allegedly.
Atlantis, Gondor, Lemuria / Mu, poof, all gone. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. You'll see. Lower Slobovia is already gone.
I feel like you jinx things. Like things that you like end up not happening anymore. Like Product 19, the Bahuka.
Well, yes, that's true. Although I never had a bowl of Product 19 at the Bahuka. That would have been a sublime experience. Anyway, the original name of the Bahuka was Bahuka 2. It was part of a chain.
Where's the first one?
Strelzow.
Okay,
Is the Ruritanian Rhapsody a little too much?
It's pretty hard to deal with both the heat and your madness right now.
Madness. All right. Here's what we do. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Now take a deep breath. Let it out. Now let it settle. Now feel your hands. One finger at a time. Feel your shoulders. Feel the chair. Now imagine that you're sitting in your office and you're in front of a camera. And imagine that you're doing a show via Skype with a man 6,000 miles away. You got that? Now pretend it's all real. And open your eyes, and the illusion will be the reality.
Wow.
Isn't that better? I'm in the wrong racket. I could make a bundle as a life coach.
Totally. I don't know why we're doing what we're in the wrong business.
That's for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need real cheap life coaches that'll give you really, really random treatment that'll won't be any worse than anything else you get from anybody else, we're in the market now. We're going to open up our first office.
No, I don't want to know. Let's leave it. That kind of hope it's dangerous, Charles. We don't want to go there. We don't want to plan things out, and definitely not
the howling winds of Strelzow.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Where would you rather live, Ruritania or Barsoom?
I don't know the characteristics of either of these places.
Well, Barsoom is Edgar Rice Burroughs' vision of what the planet Mars is like.
Okay, well, how about I'll choose Carcosa then?
Now you're talking about language. That place went out real soon. An inhabitant of Carcosa. Did I ever read you the poem?
I don't think you did.
About Carcosa. Well, it's very, very fitting given the times when, ladies and gentlemen, if you think we're particularly random this evening, it's a way of dealing with what's come out of the Vatican recently in the past couple of weeks. So this poem is from that famous poem, from the famous play, the famous play, The King in Yellow. And it's called Casilda's Song. Along the shore the cloud waves break, the suns sink behind the lake, the shadows lengthen in Carcosa. Strange is the night where black stars rise, and strange moons circle through the skies, but stranger still is lost Carcosa. Songs that the Hyades shall sing, where flap the tatters of the king, must die unheard in dim Carcosa. Song of my soul, my voice is dead. Die thou unsung as tears unshed, shall dry and die in lost Carcosa. Feeling better now? Would you believe that every night or every morning at 2:30 a.m., a lone man stands at the Piazza San Pietro in front of the Vatican and sings that in Italian?
I don't believe that, actually.
It's not true.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We have that established. Never let it be said we don't give out real information here, ladies and gentlemen.
But okay. So what's going on? What's new, Charles?
Well, I did return from my trip from Rome last week, as you know, and the week since has been primarily spent just in writing. I did on Tuesday night. I did I did a piece for my mind is going for the eternal struggle, tragedies, and triumphs of the Church for Virgin Most Powerful Radio, and my presentation was on the bad popes, not the good ones, but the evil ones, like Julius III and John the Ninth. I didn't mention Pope Joan because she didn't exist, but others. So I mean, it was basically to remind the audience that sometimes the church goes through terrible, terrible, terrible moments of trial, where, as in the Divine Comedy, we find ourselves lost in a wood midway. But the trick is to persevere, hold on to the faith, and eventually things will change, or you'll die. That's what happens. It's what happened in Las Carcosa.
Yeah.
You're not impressed.
No, I was looking at I was lost. I was lost in my own head. I was actually looking at who incarnated Pope Francis, whether it was Benedict or John Paul II. John Paul II incarnated him in February 2001.
So he was a legacy, a gift of a saint, a real treasure. You know the schoolyard response to that.
One man's treasure is another's.
No. He's a real treasure. Great, let's bury him.
I've never heard that before. I've never heard that before. No.
Do you think Hollywood kids were meaner than San Gabriel Valley kids?
Definitely. That goes without saying.
What are you saying? We were nice children, sort of. We rarely bit.
You guys lived in the jungle. Yeah.
It was kill or be killed, eat or be eaten. The law of claw and fang. Only the strong survived, and the non really stupid.
The non really stupid. Why can't you just say smart people? What do you say?
Because it's a very low thing. I mean, no, there's a comedian whose name escapes me who put it very well. He was addressing a college crowd. He was older than me, but not by much. And he said, my generation, he says, your generation is stupider than my generation. And they all looked up at us. I'm not talking about individuals, but see, our parents let us play with guns, knives, and fireworks. The dumb ones just didn't make it. You kids are all sanitized for your protection and wrapped in plastic. So, the dumb ones survive. And the funny thing was, when he said that, it was true. You were always hearing about some moron getting himself killed doing something stupid, which I'm sure wasn't a consolation to his family. But I mean, it did mean that only the marginally smarter made it.
Okay. Well, I thought they have a Darwin Award, right?
Yeah, they do.
They actually, yeah.
They do, but the way things are going, I think would have to be given out, like voting to everybody.
Voting?
Well, yeah, you know how everyone could vote today? Well, everyone should get Darwin Awards.
All right.
You're seeming unimpressed. But it's hot. How impressed do you want me to be? What are you staring at?
I was looking at I was looking at the Darwin Award winners for 2022.
Anything special?
So steel MacBook armor, 2022 Darwin Award winner confirmed true by Darwin. You're wearing body armor in a war zone. You spot an abandoned MacBook. You want the MacBook. Where to hide it? With quick reflexes, a Russian soldier slid that MacBook into his chest armor pocket, replacing a ballistic plate designed to save his life. He was killed in Irpin, and his body was retrieved, providing a hearty laugh for all of Ukraine. Instant karma. They reportedly found a stolen iPad as well. Wonder where the iPad was hidden? That's what it says. So he replaced in order to steal a MacBook, he used it to replace his chest armor.
Well, that wasn't very smart.
That's pretty weird. All right, anyhow, so it's stuff like that.
Irpin was one of the towns I went to when I went to Ukraine. That's depressing. What else you got?
What are you talking about? Darwin Awards, or what are you talking about? Or are you just talking about the show?
Well, in general, both, either. Charlie the Unicorn.
Yeah, well, we've got no memes today, but we do have a comment from Nicholas. So he says, for the next episode, I just want to make a comment that Charles guarantees that the prize for guessing which character is based on him in The Endless Knot will be sent in memory and in hope.
That's quite likely.
So obviously a reference to various heterodox people who says
La
Christ.
Cardinala.
Yeah, that Christ is present in memory and in hope in the Eucharist.
That's right.
All right. Book of the week.
I'm glad you asked that question. This week we have Walter Miller's A Canticle for Liebowitz, a sobering tale of a post-apocalyptic world. Yes, indeed, where the church has survived and has to do her old shtick of helping civilization revive, only to have the same civilization that she helps create stab her in the back, but good. It's divided into three sections, roughly corresponding to three periods in history: the Dark Ages, the Tudor era, and the immediate post-nuclear apocalypse era. They managed to drag themselves back up to where they began. But through it all, the church abides, and in the novel, Catholicism is taken as simply true, which is one of its great strengths. So I recommend it highly. Also, on the topic of books, my good friend, Brother Thomas Aquinas, MICM, has assembled a long list as a basic Catholic reading library, a long list of books. Now, I know that a lot of you guys out there are not real readers. It's true. I hate to admit this myself. But ladies, you read more than men today, which is one reason why so many novels in the popular press are aimed toward women. Chick books. But that, of course, makes the thing worse because guys don't like to read chick lit. I know that sounds sexist, but it's true. Anyhow, I guarantee you both, guys and gals, this list will be very helpful to you. And a lot of the books are available from you guessed at Tumblr House. So not all. Well, how do you get this list? It's very simple. You send a stamped self-addressed envelope and a request with your address, etc., to Brother Thomas Aquinas, MICM, P.O. Box 677. Is that right? I feel like a moron. I used to know that. I used to know it. P.O. Box 660771. That's right. P.O. Box 660771, Arcadia, California, 91006. That's it.
Okay, P.O. Box
6600771. Arcadia, California, 91006.
Okay, I'll put that in the description of the video.
That'll be good, and you'll see what the good brother has in hiding for you. One thing I should point out about the Canticle of Liebowitz is that Walter Miller, when he was an airman, participated in the bombing and destruction of Monte Cassino. And this, oddly enough, was the beginning of his conversion. So there you go.
Right. Canticle for Liebowitz is available on Tumblr's bookstore. I actually have it on sale. It's usually $17. Now it's $11. Patrons get it with free shipping and handling. So if you're patron,
did I hear that right? Free shipping and handling, Vinny?
That's right, Charles. But wait, there's more. Become a patron today and get early access to all the videos. Typically, I release it on usually Sunday now. But obviously get access to the pre-show, get a lot more, which is about 30 minutes more of content every week. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty good deal, right, Charles?
I'll say, not an actor. Be the first on your block.
Batteries not included.
Sorry, void were prohibited. Some assembly required.
Sorry, no CODs.
There we go.
I always forget that one. All right.
That's an important one.
Yeah.
All right. I guess it's time for
Hey, we got to avoid everybody and say, hey, do you guys accept CODs? No. No CODs.
No CODs. Sorry. Void were prohibited.
All right.
There'd be an exception, like some weird jurisdiction, everywhere in the states except Farquhar County, Georgia or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
All right. Daniel says, will Charles outline the Roman Empire's crisis of the 3rd century and how the empire divided into 3 parts, the Gallic Empire, the core Roman Empire centered in Italy, and the Palmyrene Empire?
Palmyrene.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, it's just what it sounds like. There were the major imperial authority broke down. And you had 3 contenders for the throne who respectively commanded Gaul, Italy, and the East. The names have escaped me, but the chaos it produced was only solved by a man named Diocletian. And he was able to reunite the empire, only to turn around and appoint lieutenants and sort of semi-redivide the empire again after he'd subdued it. He also launched the last major persecution of the Christians. But, there's my mind's a fog. There's a lot more to the crisis of the 3rd century than that.
So that was a crisis that was solved temporarily, I guess?
Temporarily.
Oh.
Humpty Dumpty was put back together again.
Okay. So Daniel has another question. This is a rather long one and in-depth. So he says, I am seeking advice on a particular situation. My aunt and uncle, who is also my godfather, both had previous marriages. My aunt's was annulled, but my uncle's never was. They were both born and raised Catholic. However, they decided to get married in a Methodist church 25 plus years ago. Unfortunately, I was in attendance. I was under 10 at the time, and I didn't know any better. But now my uncle's first wife has died. So my aunt and uncle will be regularizing their marriage in the Catholic Church this August. Basically, they were living in sin, a.k.a. shacked up, for 25 plus years, and I don't know if my uncle ever sought an annulment or couldn't get one. Either way, they were masquerading around as married when they actually weren't for 25 plus years, all the while they continued to regularly attend Mass, at least semi-weekly. Anyway, they invited my family and I to their wedding in August and a reception at a local restaurant afterwards. and I don't know if I should go. I am glad they are finally getting their marriage regularized, but why did it take 25 plus years? Furthermore, why continue to wait until August? Why not just get it done now? Perhaps most troubling to me is that I have 3 daughters, and I don't want my daughters to think that my aunt and uncle's life is an example to follow by attending this wedding and thus implicitly supporting my aunt and uncle, while at the same time I am happy they are finally making things right with themselves and with the church. Do you have any words of wisdom or advice to give me on this matter? One thing I thought about doing was attending myself, but not bringing my family. But that still makes me uneasy, as if the reason I don't want my family to go should be the same reason I shouldn't go. Or should I go? Please help. Thank you, and God bless.
Well, actually, I think you should go, and I don't think you should bring your family. Unless, I don't know how old your daughters are. If they're old enough to have the situation explained to them, that's one thing. If they're not, then it's best to let sleeping dogs lie, as it were. So I would, they are your godparents, your aunt and uncle, and they are finally doing the right thing. And that's something they should be rewarded for, because they don't have to. They've been living with us this long. Everybody accepts it. They have no problem going to Mass. But somewhere in their heads is the conscience that's pushing them to do this. So you want to support them in that. But as you say, you don't want your kids to be exposed. Now, probably they will want to know why you're not bringing your family. And at that point, your best bet would be to play it straight with them and just say, because, my daughters aren't old enough to understand, and they would take you never got an annulment from your first wife. That's why you're doing this now, because it wasn't a valid marriage. And it raises all kinds of questions about you and your relationship with each other that I'd rather not discuss with them. And I certainly don't want to hold it up to them as some sort of an example. They know I love you. I'm presuming here, I don't know, but they love you, and that won't change. But you really can't you really can't put me in that kind of a position. I'm happy to come myself because it's wonderful that you're doing the right thing, and I certainly support you doing it. I wish you'd done a lot earlier, maybe pursued an annulment, but better late than never, as the saying has it. And that's how I would deal with it. Because, see, the thing is, it's, your being there is, in a sense, a reward for their finally doing the right thing. Your family not being there is a bit of a punishment for their having waited so long.
That's kind of nicely said. I mean, that makes sense, right? There's a reward and there's a punishment, which sounds very just, in a sense. Okay.
Well, you want, as I say, you want to reward them for doing the right thing, but you can't escape, and they can't escape the consequences of their actions.
Wow. All right. Okay, Clark from Florida says, I heard something about there being a prayer to make a certain prayer intention be heard by God every time you pray. As it's difficult to remember everything you're praying for over time, is there a prayer to sort of make an intention permanent and heard by God every time you pray, even if you don't remember it every time? Has Charles heard of this, and if so, how does one do this?
I haven't. Have you?
My mind jumped to this weird spot. We were reading really old letters to Santa Claus that my wife wrote. it like from long time ago when she was like 3 or 4, and she smartly said, she lists the gifts. and she says, list and bring me all the gifts that that you were going to give me that I didn't think of anyway, or something like that. I don't know. It was a catch-all thing. There was some sort of supplementary clause in there to say, look, don't rely on this intention here for everything. Like, I know I'm missing something, but please come up with the goods.
Get into the habit of just ending your prayers with, and for everything I should have prayed for and have forgotten.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. That was very similar. I know Mother Angelica, she had a say it once method in trust where it was her understanding, whether it's right or wrong, that she puts it in there and it's understood by God that that's something she's praying for. But I've asked priests about this, and they all give me the same answer, which it depends on whether you have to say something every single time. It says depends what you're asking for. So I don't know. Because I've had that same scrupulosity. Like, do I have to list everything? Do I have to list like 10, 15 people who
do? And if you get one wrong, God will not hear any of your prayers. Does that help with the scrupulosity bit?
Oh, man. While I'm at it, I need to offer up other people's prayer intentions or something. Remember that? What did you and my brother joke about?
No, we were joking about stealing other people's communion intentions when you went up to receive at Mass. You're in the line and you see an old lady kneel and she puts her tongue out, and I'm offering her communion for... And so you do that to everybody, you offer their communions for things, so they get nothing. They get nothing.
I just love that. I don't know, because, oh man,
it's kind of demented.
It is. Well, it's verging like super evil, but with Catholicity kind of embedded into it.
And I think I'll offer that lady in yellow's communion for...
Oh, man. All right. Daniel has a question, and he says, in high school, I loved learning, but I wasn't very good at or interested in reading and writing. So, of course, I decided to study history for my undergraduate, which is entirely reading and writing. I choose history because the stories fascinated me, and eventually I got better at reading and writing. But since graduating 10 years ago, getting a job in the business world, not in history, starting a family, and having kids, I don't seem to have time for reading. But I really want to read more. But still, I am predisposed to procrastinate, postpone, or sit in front of a screen and watch reruns of Off the Menu before I will go to pick up a book to read. One of my biggest blockers that I keep saying is, I'm not in the mood to read right now. Because I'm either stressed or tired with the cares of the world, and reading feels more like a chore than relaxing. Do either of you have any advice for someone who wants to get in the habit of reading more? Charles?
No. Well, the biggest thing you should do is get books, but then place them strategically. You should have one in the bathroom to read when you're there, one by the television to read during commercials, and one in the car to read whenever you've got to wait in lines for things.
Wow. I actually have a lot of things. I have a lot of taxes because I've suffered from this too. Because, you work a 9 to 5, you come home, you want to read, but you're just exhausted, you're tired, and obviously you've got your family to attend to, and so there's a lot of hurdles. One of the things, there's so many apps on, the Apple Store or the Android Store for productivity. If you want to check that box, if you have good habits where you want to check this box every day, there's a lot of really neat applications that can, just poke you. Like, hey, buddy, you haven't read yet. Here's your notification. You want to check that box or nah? So there's that. I think part of it is what do you want to read? Like, think about stuff that you want to read. It reminds me of this thing at work where we have this thing called SMART goals, where we're trying to help people have goals in life, just so that they could be more successful, because there's a surprising amount of people who aren't goal oriented. They're just kind of floating. And so it's like, it's good to just list goals, just to have something in front of you. Well, I think so too with reading. I don't think you should read for reading's sake. I think you have to have that hunger, right? Like that's what I mean, when I have bits of information that I want to absorb, like, oh, I really want to read the saints, about the saint's life. It's really interesting. For example, like for Charles's book, that's an easy one, right? Blessed Carl. Everyone's talking about Blessed Carl. I know he's epic. I know he's lived an epic life. I have this hunger to learn about Blessed Carl's story. So just kind of latch on to whatever you're hungry for to learn. Fiction's harder. Fiction is obviously definitely harder. My wife is a huge fiction reader, but all I can tell you is how I feel for nonfiction, because I'm a big nonfiction reader. All right. Question from Vendée Radio.
Okay.
Dear Charles, could you share your thoughts on the nuanced psychodrama Doubt from 2008? In particular, what did you think about the juxtaposition between the traditional and tough Sister Aloysius and the sentimental and modern Father Flynn? It struck me as a clever meditation on sentimentalism versus desire for the other's real good.
I'd agree with you. I mean, the funny thing about it is, on the surface, we're supposed to think of her as the bad guy, or the bad gal, and him as the good guy. But it becomes very, very complex, and you're never completely sure. Even at the end, it's revealed that she isn't 100% sure. But the doubt is enough.
Enough for what? Wait.
Well, basically, if there's even a possibility that the priest is a danger to the children, she wants to get rid of him, even if it's not true. And at the end of the day, although she's pretty sure she's right, she's not 100% sure.
What do you think about that?
I think it's very realistic. I mean, unless it's somebody like Cardinal McCarrick, who's an industrial strength molester. There are a lot of what?
The industrial strength. I need some of that industrial strength stuff.
He molested everything, men, women, and pets. Not even the chairs were safe. But if a priest has only slept once or twice, can you be sure he slept at all? If you think he slept. I mean to say, you've got a person who has only one accusation against him. And you may have really good evidence. But is it 100%? And a lot of the times the answer is no, it's not completely definite. And the funny thing is, in most cases, we agree with the old adage that it's better that 100 criminals go free than one innocent man be executed. But that doesn't really work here, because a child molested is a life ruined very often. And so it becomes very, very difficult sometimes. Look at Cardinal Pell. His accuser was not only a bit crazy, the place where it was supposed to have happened was simply impossible. It was supposed to have happened in the sacristy of Sydney Cathedral. I've been through there myself. There's no way he could have gotten the guy alone. It just doesn't work that way. But if a person says that the priest took him to a motel at this and such a time, we checked the records. It turns out the priest was there, but there are no witnesses to there being a kid there. Well, why would the kid have chosen that hotel, that motel, to claim it? Well, I don't know. Maybe he knows the priest's habits, or maybe he doesn't. There is always, in these sorts of cases, a certain amount of doubt, unless there's a confession. I mean, if a guy has 20 or 30 charges against him, the likelihood is that at least one of them is real. If he's only got one, and it isn't an ironclad case, then there is always that doubt. So I go back to what I said. It's realistic.
So I've seen the movie as well. It seems structured in such a way that everyone makes a judgment at the end. I mean, individually, everyone who watches it makes their own judgment. So, What's your judgment?
Oh, I thought he probably did it, but that's beside the point.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. Sister Aloysius bothered me. I didn't like that. I don't like how strict devout people are always nasty people. That really rubs me the wrong way a lot.
That's just so you won't like them. It's just so you won't like them.
So that's interesting. So okay, so you're saying you had doubt. It's only one instance, but given the gravity of the situation, that you'd take action.
Yeah. Although, it's hard to know what to do in that sort of a case, because if the fellow is molesting someone, going to him separately and voicing your suspicion could be just the worst thing possible, because he might, provoke the lad in question to back up his story, using the usual combination of threats and promises. I mean, it's. Let's put it this way: it's a swamp I'm glad I've never had to set foot in myself.
Okay. All right. Question from C. She says, "What can Charles tell us about Savonarola? Did he die as a saint at the stake, as Pier Giorgio Frassati says? Or was he a crazy proto-Protestant?"
I can't really answer that question. It's a little bit like Alexander VI. Was he the hero that some people make him out to be, or the villain that others make him out to be? I don't know. I really don't know. There are two schools of thought, both marshal impressive facts on their side, and I frankly don't know enough to tell you which is correct.
So by proto-Protestant, that means he's so critical that it's almost rebellious against the church?
Yeah. He attacked the Pope for being an evil liver and a heretic and so on, which he was, but not a heretic, but certainly, well, maybe he was. It was that same Alexander VI. So.
Heresy over what?
Well, he accused Alexander of heresy and evil living.
Okay. No, but I mean, what was the heresy he was accusing Alexander of?
I don't remember.
Okay. Um. How often does a pope get accused of heresy nowadays?
Nowadays, not often enough. I mean, never mind.
No, but like, okay, how about let's say 20th century?
Never.
What about the 19th century?
No. But in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, it would happen.
Due to what? Due to legitimate concern, like
Sometimes,
you know.
sometimes for political reasons.
Interesting. All right. Well, kind of a short episode. Last question of the day is going to be from Brian. He says, "Hello, Charles and Vincent. What does Charles think about the reign of Louis Philippe I, King of the French? I'm pretty sure Charles would disapprove of the manner in which he came to power. But how would Charles evaluate his policies and such? Surely the fact that the 1848 revolutionaries didn't like him means he must have been doing something good, right?"
Well, yes and no. I mean, he certainly stimulated the French economy, and he favored the French capitalists. That's for sure. They used to say his motto was "Enrichissez-vous," which is enrich yourself. And he encouraged a whole lot of infrastructure. He attempted to reconcile the memory of Bonaparte, and in fact brought Bonaparte's body back from St. Helena and had it interred where it is now at Les Invalides. But what can I tell you? I'm a legitimist, and I don't care for him.
That's it? That's the extent
No,
of
that's
it?
it. That's the extent of it. I mean, he usurped the throne. He had promised Charles X that he would act as regent for Charles X's grandson, the Comte de Chambord, Henri V, and he betrayed that trust. Even his wife disagreed with him. I mean, she played the part of Queen of the French, but when she died, she was laid next to him. His gravestone says Louis Philippe I, Roi des Français. Hers says whatever her name was, Duchesse d'Orléans, Duchess of Orleans. So even his wife didn't believe in his pretenses.
All right. It's such a short episode. I feel like I'm gonna pull from the non-patron pile, which I haven't done in like over a year, since we're still under 50 minutes. What?
You could do that, but do you feel the slightest bit Ruritanian?
I do not. Do you?
No. Hail Ruritania. Wouldn't you love to go to Strelzow?
No.
All right, fine. You know what? Since you're a Carcosan, I'll give you another quote from The King in Yellow.
Okay.
All right. This is Act 1, Scene 2. Camilla says to the stranger, "Camilla, you, sir, should unmask." The stranger, "Indeed." Casilda, "Indeed, it's time. We have all laid aside disguise but you." Stranger, "I wear no mask." Camilla, terrified, aside to Casilda, "No mask? No mask?"
All right.
Does that help?
No. All right. So I've got it's kind of scary how good of a question I have pulled from this non-patron pile just now. A question from Kyle, who says, "Dear fellas, I would like to know if Charles has read The Romance of the Three Kingdoms and is knowledgeable of the Chinese Empire's illustrious history. Regarding the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, a must for monarchists. It is better than Game of Thrones, better than Dune, better than Bernard Cromwell's Saxon Chronicles even. It is based on actual history. Has Charles read it, and does he have a favorite character such as Liu Bei or Zhuge Liang? I am particularly an admirer of General Liang and the Peachtree Brotherhood under Liu Bei. Okay.
I have heard of it, but I have not read it. That is the sad truth.
Wow. I thought you would know that one. Okay, I'm gonna pull. Let's see.
You're reaching now.
I'm super reaching. All right. Question from Gavin. He says, "Hello, Charles. I've recently become more interested in Catholicism and pre-modern politics after reading your articles. A question that has entered my mind as a result of this new interest, as well as events of the past few years, is how did medieval states, both monarchies and republics, deal with what we would call pandemics?"
Well, the answer is not very well. Tons of people died. They would try to minimize contact with the afflicted, but that wasn't always possible. And so very often all they could do was wait until the pandemic ran its course and killed whomever it killed. If you either got the disease, you didn't, and if you got sick, you either died or you didn't. That's about all they could do.
What would the church's response to a pandemic be?
Well, the more heroic priests would give the sacraments to the dying, unless they got, and often were infected and died themselves. The more cowardly fled. They had ingenious ways of administering communion on long sticks, to minimize exposure.
Wow.
But all they could do was what they could do, and then again, the pandemic would run its course, as it always did.
All right. Let's see here. All right. Another question. Hello, Charles. This is a question from Riley. He says, the majority of my family are Seventh-day Adventists.
Oh.
And I've been struggling to find any good Catholic resources that refute their historical and theological claims. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, yes. A fellow named Goldstein who was a Jewish convert to Catholicism, wrote something called Campaigners for Christ Handbook, David Goldstein. And it has a particularly good section on Seventh-day Adventists. It attacks them pretty clearly. I don't see it online, but Campaigners for Christ Handbook, David Goldstein talks about the Seventh-day Adventists. Also, I wonder if Rumble and Party. There were two priests. One is Father Rumble, and they came up with a set of Leslie Rumble, that was he. Radio Replies, that was his thing. He did the Question Box radio show. And so he and his American partner put out The Radio Replies was what it was called, Radio Replies booklet. And these really went into Seventh-day Adventism quite a bit. Yeah, he devoted a whole book, a whole pamphlet to Seventh-day Adventists, and gave a pretty good refutation.
Okay.
I'm looking to see. Yeah, it's online. So you want Leslie Carter, Leslie Rumble, Seventh-day Adventists.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. All right, thank you, Charles. Finally, a question from me. How do we stay cool this summer, other than estivating, like the coworkers at Tumblr House right now?
I'll show you.
Yes, thank you for you've illustrated. Sounds like you're walking in a very windy field right now.
Have you any idea how good this feels?
I can imagine.
Oh man, it's so cool, so wonderful. Would you be surprised if I told you the only reason I'm able to spend my days writing is sitting with this thing going full blast?
I believe it. Yeah, I see you even have 2 fans there.
I do.
Do you ever double dip?
Yep. a little later in the summer, not yet. A little later. I'm going to set that up over there, and I'll have them coming on both sides.
Wow.
And it really chills me down.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Okay, yeah, go on.
All right, you're half Italian.
Yes.
And you're half Ruritanian. Now, why are you giving me that look?
You don't know. I mean, why would you say that? You don't know what I am.
Yeah, I do. Your mother's people were Ruritanians who came to Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right, go on. All right, so tell me about me.
You're half Italian, half Ruritanian.
Okay.
And that's why you keep a fish in the bathtub at Christmas time.
I don't like...
Don't like what? There's nothing wrong with it. It keeps the carp nice and fresh and alive until it's time to cook it. What's wrong with that? You're not ashamed of old country customs, are you?
No, I'm not ashamed of old country customs. No, that's...
Thank you.
Okay.
How many generations away from Ruritania are you anyway?
You're asking the wrong person. You're going to have to ask my mom that question. Let me ask you this, though. Have you ever eaten a Christmas feast that was generated using a carp in a bathtub? You've been there that long, and somehow you haven't eaten a carp from a bathtub.
I'm not in Slovakia. I'm in Austria. They don't do that here. They only do it in Ruritania.
Okay. I thought you traveled, but okay.
I do, just not at Christmas time. You see, like any good Christian, I try to stay home by the hearth side at Christmas.
Well, that's true.
Instead of going out and having a good time for myself at Strelzow and Zenda, like Ruritanians do.
Okay, that's what?
Well, I've got another question.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Now, you know they've appointed this new Portuguese cardinal.
Okay.
Who's an auxiliary bishop of Lisbon that already has a red hat.
Yeah.
So this is the guy who says they don't want to convert young people to Christ or to the church.
Okay. Great.
So what does he want to convert them to?
I don't know. I thought everyone's getting swallowed up in Desjardins' vortex of perfection or something. Anyway, I honestly, it's just all crap. I just picture this giant vortex and everybody's like in it. I mean, is that what they believe? I don't know what's going on with these people.
Well, what's funny is that Tucha, the heal me with your LARP man, Tucha says that he's going to go after authoritarianism as head of the CDF or the DDF.
These people, they don't even know what they're saying. They honestly don't even. I saw that.
You know what it is?
What?
Unfortunately, Merlin's curse of that hideous strength is catching up with them. From those who have despised the word of God, let the word of man be taken also. They're just babbling.
No one's really listening anymore either. I mean,
well, no, unless you have to, unless you're, unless you're in a position where they own you, nobody cares what they say.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna do a bunch of editing here, ladies and gentlemen, and because we're getting unfiltered. Look, stop freaking out so I can edit this.
I like that line. Freak out. Freak out. Stop freaking out so I can edit it. Well, I don't know. That sort of sounds like a contradiction in terms, because if I didn't freak out, you wouldn't need to edit it.
All right, so we're going to wrap things up because we've got super extreme unfiltered Charles. Chat amongst yourselves about what you think is being edited out. It makes for good speculation. It's fun.
Is it my occasional lapsing into Ruritanian?
No, I don't know. I don't want to answer anything.
Mogronia tushi blandonia kojimania. Oye?
Charles, I just have one question for you. What is it if it's Monday?
Don't help. I can do this. It's off the menu.
What about the soul you save?
It may be your own.
Adios. See you next time, everyone.
And keep smiling.